So I found a good screenshot of an Instagram post. It says, quote on, so this is the Good Shepherd. I found it on the Good Shepherd Collective Facebook, which is why it's up here first. It says anti-Zion, quote unquote, anti-Zionist Jewish orgs have chosen to further the deadly confuscation, I think it's how you say it, se me va la lengua, right, of anti-Semitism with wanting to stop genocide. Now, so here's the OG post, the original post of the screenshot. It's from Anna Rajagopal and Amanda Gelender. And I think there's limitations to these two people. And I don't like to platform Jews, but they did this post, so, and JVP covered it, so that's why I'm doing this. Because to be honest, I'm Palestinian, Lebanese, and Yemeni. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't trust them. I don't really trust Rajagopal to the fullest extent, or Gelender, and I think they're in some ways crypto-Zionists. Because let's see what they say in the caption first. Rajagopal says, El JFREJ, El National JVP, El Rabbis for Ceasefire, right? So what National JVP is connected to local JVP. So why not just say JVP in general? Why not just say JVP in general? Why specify it as National JVP? This is a little Zionist subversion, right? Because Good Shepherd Collective, shout out to Good Shepherd Collective, here's what they say about JVP. So this here is a tweet they're citing by Nerdin Kiswani. Say, I'm sorry, but if JVP, if not now, and JFREJ want more praise than Neturei Karta, by the way, Neturei Karta is also a Zionist settler organization, and want to be seen as truly progressive anti-Zionist organizations, they need to start acting like it. That means actually embodying anti-Zionism, not just condemning resistance, but openly supporting it. These orgs express it, and then they post this article. So this, and here's what JVP says. This is from February 20, 2025. These orgs articulate a version of Zionism by which the settler maintains control of the political structures, land, and resources through a discourse of equal rights. Their demand for equal rights enshrines the rights of the settler, realized at the expense of Palestinians. This article, and they link an article from Black Agenda Report, here demonstrates how French settlers tried to deploy the rhetoric of equal rights to take control of the land from the Kanaks in New Caledonia. And it says, and JVP said, or not JVP, sorry, Good Shepherd Collective. Good Shepherd Collective says these orgs express a solidarity that is marketable to their liberal base at the individual, institutional, and governmental level of funding. JVP and If Not Now are funded by the same groups that openly finance Zionist institutions like the NIF and money from the US government. They show the screenshots that JVP and a bunch of Zionist organizations, including JVP, are taking money from the Foundation for Middle East Peace. They show the screenshot that says JVP is taking money from the US government. And from Palestine, it's frustrating to watch other Palestinian formations organize with these groups and effectively sign off on their very limited versions of solidarity and so-called quote-unquote anti-Zionism, quote-unquote. There is nothing, quote-unquote, strategic, quote-unquote, about aligning with modes of Zionism. We've heard members of Palestinian Youth Movement and SJP argue that they organize with the local JVP and If Not Now chapters because they're good people, and okay, sure, but then ask them to stop franchising liberal Zionism. They can start their own group with a new name and not spread those brands and their politics. On another note, it's important to understand that these groups, If Not Now, JVP, JFREJ, etc., allied resistance formations not simply because of the potential legal repercussions, but because there is an agreement with them and liberal Palestinian personalities. By refusing to support Palestinian resistance in all its form or openly condemning them, all of these groups have done, those in solidarity reinforce liberal control over the Palestinian narrative by choosing which Palestinians they will listen to and uplift. There is a mutual beneficial arrangement in which these groups work in quote unquote work in solidarity, quote unquote, with Palestinian partners, quote unquote, all of whom are hand-selected and don't represent the popular will, but rather respond to the liberal donors and their quote unquote vision of quote unquote peace through the human rights paradigm, quote unquote. This conscious effort allows both groups to maintain their relevant status and financial support of their donors while leading up undeserved public spaces, quote unquote experts, quote unquote. It's not only these groups that do this, but their overinflated budgets certainly help keep them on posters and calling some of the shots. This has been detrimental to international solidarity organizing efforts. So let's keep that in mind, because here's the thing. Rajagopal calls out national JVP, but she's not calling out local JVP, which is tied to national JVP, and local JVP is also Zionist, right? So Rajagopal says, quote unquote, anti-Zionist, quote unquote, Jewish orgs have chosen to further the deadly confuscation of quote unquote anti-Semitism, quote unquote, with wanting to stop genocide. Screenshots from JFredge about the Zionist settler embassy people that were hit by blickies, right? Because 2 Zionist embassy people were hit by blickies. And then they got one from Rabbis for Ceasefire, one from JVP, and says this rhetoric pushed by Jewish organizations which purport to fight for Palestinian liberation further advances Zionist narratives. Do you want to know why it advances Zionist narratives? Because JVP, JFredge, and Rabbis for Ceasefire are Zionist at the end of the day. And honestly, I think the fact that Rajagopal and Gelender call out national JVP, but not local JVP, that's also Zionist normalization, right? And then they quote Mohammed al-Kurd. It's despicable and nothing short of journalistic malpractice that the media class is scrambling to reframe the hitting of 2 Zionist officials, Zionist settler officials, with blickies as a random anti-Semitic attack, even though it was undeniably, and by the alleged shooter's own admission, a response to the ongoing settler colonialism in Palestine and the ongoing Zionist assault against Gaza, which has killed 107 Palestinians in the last 24 hours alone. This is the same kind of journalistic malpractice that has manufactured consent for the mass slaughter and starvation that have ravaged Palestine for 2 years. Journalists have a responsibility to report things truthfully without sensationalization. Otherwise, they are complicit in this genocide and should be held to account. So issuing statements like JVP did, and JFredge, and if not now, no one asked for, that continue to appeal to liberal Zionist acceptability after 2 years of ongoing genocide and settler colonialism since literally the 1700s, is just Zionism. And this rhetoric fosters a culture of accepting normalization as long as it doesn't appear political without pushing the narrative beyond Zionist hegemony in Jewish spaces. This global debate about anti-Semitism is a manufactured distraction from genocide and settler colonialism in Palestine. Because as long as you're worried about Jewish feelings, our government can pay pay the Zionist entity to attack Palestinian families. And it's not just through airstrikes. There are multiple ways in which the US government is paying the Zionist entity to attack Palestinian families. And why are you even normalizing the name of the Zionist entity? Like, come on now. And then it's kind of weird because Rajagopal and Gelender center Jewish quote unquote anti-Zionists before Palestinians here. So it says Jewish anti-Zionist orgs owe us better, and more importantly, owe the Palestinian people better than to walk into Zionist traps of condemnation while families are starved to death. I think they're not walking into traps. I think that JVP, Rabbis for Ceasefire, and JFredge, and I'm talking both national JVP and local JVP, so both the national level and local levels around the United States, I think they're not walking into Zionist traps. That it's because they are Zionist. The whole modus operandi, right? The whole history of JVP is Zionist. The funding schemes they participate in, the people they associate with, it's all Zionist, right? So Rajagopal kind of seems like a little bit of a Zionist subversive. Gelender, the way they center Jewish, quote unquote, Jewish anti-Zionists here, it seems a little bit of, Zionist counterinsurgency. And the fact that they're talking about national JVP but not local JVP, that's also, a form of Zionist counterinsurgency. Check it, right? So we've heard members, so this is from Good Shepherd Collective, February 20. We've heard members of Palestinian Youth Movement and SJP argue that they organize with the local JVP and If Not Now chapters because they're a good people. Okay, sure. But then ask them to stop franchising liberal Zionism. They can start their own group with a new name and not spread those brand of politics. So what they're basically doing is telling, okay, local JVP, you want to be part of the movement? You got to end all ties with JVP. Start a new organization with a new name, end all ties, erase the name of JVP from your organization, right? Quit spreading the toxic brands of JVP and If Not Now, which are liberal Zionism. Start a new organization and change the name. Again, Rajagopal is a liberal Zionist. The way she says national JVP instead of local JVP, or JVP in general, the way she says national JVP instead of saying all of JVP, she is a liberal Zionist. So there you go.